Yeah, I think that's largely comes down to growth and some of the disappointment that we're seeing in terms of consumption. You were mentioning before weaker German retail sales. So obviously some are worried, some are more worried than others. Inflation is not quite done yet. You were mentioning before actually inflation is coming down, but maybe not.
We don't mind 2.2% though. We call that target, don't we?
Yeah, although some don't. Of course, that's the part of the problem, that the ECB Council is very divided. We heard a couple of days ago a very influential board member, Isabel Schnabel, saying actually neutral rate is higher than we think. There are still some services pressures, and no surprise, therefore, that Villeroy de Galhau is now coming out saying, well, actually, no, I think we should move faster. We should move faster towards neutral. So obviously, it's a very lively debate, and I think it's all going to get even lively as we head into next year, actually.
I've studied economics, but I'm no economist, and I could see this weeks ago, which is why I was asking half the Governing Council the other week as to whether there should be this optionality at 50 basis points, because last time they met, there was not a 50 basis point discussion. It was only 25. That was the option that Philip Lane had put on the table and said, well, given just how quickly pieces are moving, how quickly growth is falling, shouldn't you at least consider it, have an option on the table for 50? 3 members said yes. So here we are, where we've got another member saying this is a
quick question for you before Fabio answers. Does your CV say you're an economist? Just asking for a friend at number 11 Downing Street. Does your CV say you're an economist?
No, I didn't go with that, funnily enough.
OK, just asking for a friend, that's all. Fabio, please come in.
Well, I think we should remember that this is the ECB, so they always move very, very slowly. So, you mentioned last time only 25 basis point was on the table, but actually until a few days before the meeting, it wasn't even on the table. So, that's already a stepping up. It's a very slow central bank. Christine Lagarde in particular has been seeking consensus, and seeking that consensus means you often have to move a little bit more slowly than what maybe other central bank would move. So I think at the December meeting, yes, there will be some discussion on a 50 basis point cut, but in the end they'll settle for a 25 basis point cut and maybe a bit of forward guidance towards potentially more aggressive cut next year if growth data continue to disappoint.
The data was all heading in the one direction for the ECB, and that was what they dealt with last time round. Next year feels like it could become more difficult because trade tensions are something that's already on the horizon thanks to the incoming Trump administration. What is it going to yield in terms of, if we do get more tariffs, does that mean inflation comes back? We've still got geopolitics. Is the energy story still in the mix? What sort of variables are the ECB going to be dealing with next year that suggest maybe the data will be, again, all over the place and not as easy to call a direction on rates?
Yeah. Well, I think, the main driver of growth should still be domestic consumption. No, we are talking about an area which has seen large increases in real incomes, and as such, as long as people feel a little bit more confident and firms a little bit more kind of keen to invest, then that should create a little bit of a domestic recovery. That's what the ECB has been hoping for. We've seen some tentative signs of that. I mean, you mentioned the
retail. Not in Germany.
Well, the retail sales, actually, there were some past revision to the data, which actually meant the year-on-year print was actually stronger than the market was anticipating. So, and that has also been part of the story. Some of the survey data that we've seen are actually much weaker than the hard data. Hard data have come in a little bit better than the survey data. So that creates a bit of uncertainty in terms of the ECB. They don't know whether they should look at the PMIs. The PMIs have been very bad, but actually Q3 growth was 0.4 Q-on-Q. So I think that does create a little bit of uncertainty. Certainly, Europe is going to miss, and is still missing, one key engine of growth, which is exports. And tariff could potentially affect that even more. So certainly that will be one issue that they have to deal next year. But also, as Christine Lagarde said, it's not obvious that that's necessarily a dovish thing. Tariff could also mean higher inflation, and that could create a challenge for the ECB.